Well, good morning, friends. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is a great morning to get moving, to get bouncing, and to put some energy into your life. Wonderful that life is beautiful that way, if no other. Of late, I've been talking about a topic. You didn't have to, but you did. And if you didn't have to, but you did, it means that you didn't have enough information to process whether or not you should have gone ahead or wait or choose a different option. And so it is in life that we can make our mistakes by not having the right information. What is your answer to the question, why am I here? What is your answer to the question, why am I here? At some point in your life, you will ask that question. Many of us, have asked that question years ago and make certain decisions as to how to live our lives. And we come up to junctions where we question whether or not we made the right decision. And we regroup, we reevaluate, we gain new insights as to what we could do to better our decisions. And when we realize there is new information are to be found, whether in a class, from the words of a preacher, from taking a seminar, or whatever, we seek always to improve upon what we have fostered or built from the information we had before. But the answer to the existential question, why am I here, can be found in many ways. Because we learn from what we see, what we hear, and what we experience. And we use that direction from that to foster a more radiant lifestyle. And so the answer to the question, why am I here? Why am I here? And a simple answer is this, that we are here to live and to grow. We're here to live and to grow. Isn't that wonderful? That we can simplify why we're here based upon what we have been doing here from the time we were born. We have been living and we have been growing. And what we find is that we are getting many answers as to the purpose of life from many angles in religion. From many, many angles in religion. And sometimes we end up with confusion. Confusion that we could have sidestepped if we had better understanding. So a question we might ask ourselves is, what if there were no information from others available? Let's look at it this way. Remember that movie, Castaway, with Tom Hanks? Every so often when I think of being alone and isolated away from the world, I think of that movie with Tom Hanks, Castaway. Having been shipwrecked on an island, this character found himself alone for a while. And he had to make do with whatever means he had to survive. Whatever means he had to survive. And it occurs to me that if we did not have the information age, like the internet, social media, people with different ideas about life, we would have to come up with something by ourselves. We would have to come up with something on our own. So if you're isolated on an island by yourself, how would you survive? How would you survive? The simple truth is this, that we are designed for living and growing. We are designed with the sufficiency in us from the Creator. And every time purpose is being fulfilled, you'll feel a sense of gratitude and feel compelled to be thankful. Feel compelled to be thankful. I remember when I studied to get my degree years back, I worked hard at it. I made sacrifices. I remembered many times friends would call me up and say, we are doing this or that, we want you to come. It's just a couple of hours away, or this little time you'll spend getting away from what you're doing, and I would have to say, no, I have an exam. And so postpone a lot of things in order to reach the goal. And yet, having sacrificed much, at the end of the journey, when I walk for my degree, I'm saying, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. And I feel a sense of elation and accomplishment, having done what I set out to do and finish it. So you're going to feel a gratitude when you accomplish purpose, even though you have to work hard to do it, and knowing that it is from your own gusto of intention that it came about. Yet, beyond that, it is the inbuilt sufficiency from the Creator to live and to grow in such a way. So you are shipwrecked on an island and not knowing where to go. Your option is simply learning from what you can see, hear, and experience. What's wonderful about that is that the techniques of that comes from the sufficiency given by the Creator. The sufficiency in all of us given by the Creator. And from that, if we were on an island by ourselves, we will be learning and we'll be growing. Because all we had to employ from ourselves is the element of curiosity. The element of curiosity. that begins the journey. And it is true, as have been said, more often than not, that when the student is ready, the teacher will come. When the student is ready, the teacher will come. And again, the teacher is in you, and the teacher is outside of you. If you're on an island all by yourself, your first curiosity, how do I eat? Well, I think I'm going to have to get a stick with a very pointed and sharp edge, and I can go and search for a bass, a pink salmon, or a perch. And I think I can try to make fire. I can try to make fire and broil it over my own makeshift stove. So curiosity begins to shape what you do next. And the teacher begins in you because you have that sufficiency in you. But the sufficiency is also accompanied by the free will and free dominion of the Creator. And as you fledge your way into survival and perhaps the release of your imprisonment, being alone on an island, what happens is that you're learning a lot about yourself, and not just about yourself, but about the environment. Well, Tom Hanks, he had something going for him long before he was shipwrecked. I don't remember the name of his character in Castaway, but he surely had previous learning, and that helped a lot. That helped a lot, but if he was a child born on that island with shipwrecked parents, and by the time he had any sense, they had passed away, and he alone survived with the tide and the time and the wind and the rain, and left in that little hole in the rock. As he grows, he would be learning. He would be learning his own survival based upon the teacher that is growing in him, the teacher that is welling up in him. And when a child, well, say, he must have been at some age, maybe 3 years old at the time, because as a newborn baby, survival had a chance there. But if you're alone on an island at a very young age, it has to be an age by which you can find some way to use your mind, to use your body, strength, to be able to think and apply to further your growth. But the whole idea of knowing the self is an important part of your survival. And so whether or not you are on an island shipwrecked, you have a job, a task, to know yourself. Right now as I run and speak, I'm doing it because I know myself. I know I can do it. I go on this run occasionally for about 30 minutes. And the reason why I do it, even in my 70s, I know I can do it. I know I don't have any contraindications in order to do this. I know that the sufficiency in me allows me the muscle strength, the endurance with breath, breathing, and everything else that is in me to accomplish successfully what I commit to do at this moment to its completion. So the whole idea that is so important is to know thyself. Know thyself. And the next thing, if I were to offer you 3 points as to how to avoid doing something that I didn't need to and cause regrets, I need to know how to apply knowledge. So the first one would be know thyself. Know thyself. And the second one would be live the best of what you know. Live the best of what you know. Because in doing so, you are not just amassing knowledge, but you're also applying knowledge that with constant application of knowledge, you're moving into the area of wisdom. Wisdom. Knowledge is good. It's good to know yourself. But how to apply that knowledge wisely is very, very important. As I recall the movie, having seen it, Castaway, about 20 years ago or so, I remember time that when nobody came along to rescue the castaway, played by Tom Hanks, he built a boat. He built a boat. And using his wits also for survival, he had a friend that was not human, but a representation of a friend in the form of a coconut. And he spoke to that coconut as if it were a human being. And he developed a relationship with that substituted friend. And we saw in the movie all the emotions that was put into that friendship. That when the coconut was whiffed away by a strong wind and wave, there was a mourning for that friend. But the survival instinct in all of us is details of the sufficiency in us that we can apply to whatever situation we find ourselves in this life, and knowing fully well that we can be creative and we can be ingenious. We can apply ingenuity to a situation that relieve the stress and give us the impetus to advance regardless of our situation. This can be applied in any area of our lives when we live the best of what we know. We live the best of what we know. That is something I can recall for myself, because one of the things about my life is that I grew up in church, I could say that. And many people understand what it means to grow up in church. When I talk about music, I would tell that in every one that I've been with, I was always either in the choir or in the band. And love the wonderful hymns that come with church devotions, and how many of the spirituality in that is applied to enrich one's life. So the best thing to do is apply your knowledge and find ways to exemplify them in everyday life. You know, you can become a blessing to someone else by words spoken, a song sung, or a quote relevant to the moment that makes a difference. So, point number 2, live the best of what you know. Live the best of what you know. And I give you number 3, the last point. Make it a habit to check your growth. Make it a habit to check your growth. Because there's nothing worse than stagnation. Because if you're stagnating, you find that purpose has waned and have drifted along the way. And you must find some way to get back. It's like you're taking a detour, you're going to California, and somehow you made a wrong turn. You made a wrong turn, and you expect to get there in 5-6 hours, and now you took a detour that take away 90 minutes, well, even that, from the trip. And there's nothing more frustrating than that. You got to get to that wedding. You got to get to that wedding. You're the bridegroom. You got to get there. You're going to hold up business there. And even with that analogy, we have places to go in our lives. We have places to go in our purpose, because we're shaped to fulfill our purpose. We are shaped to fulfill our purpose. And sometimes we only know that we are off track. That's all we know. And we know we have to get back on track. And it's often relevant and needful to meditate and reevaluate how well you're growing. And what hinders growth is being detoured from your mission. So you always sometimes have to put it down on paper and write what you want to accomplish and see if you're getting there one step at a time every day. I always gave the advice that if you want to accomplish anything, give yourself a 3-year or a 5-year time slot and determine when to start with the first step. And tomorrow is supposed to be the second step if you began today unwaveringly. And if you may look at it as a very difficult task, then find a way to make it easy. Use smaller chunks of involvement. For example, when I began my running about 20 years ago, I probably couldn't do this for any more than about 5 to 10 minutes, jogging like this. But as time goes by, I can do this for an hour. Right now I could go an hour because I can. But as I said before, my aim is 30 minutes. And I'm getting close to it now. So make sure you're checking your growth every so often to know that you're putting in, even we talk about the work, but what about the increment of time to make sure at least you're always at it. And one way to get to finish your goal is not to be overburdened with your method, not to be overburdened with the effort. I remember, I can give you a good example. When I was writing more often than I do now, I wanted a way to make writing normal. I wanted a way to make writing normal. I didn't want it to be stressful because I have a way of, when I'm in the groove, I can't sleep until I get it out of my head. In other words, when you're writing a book, there's a tendency for the book to be in your head, even when it's not supposed to be. There's a time when you must sleep and you must rest. But if you're writing and the book is so exciting and empowering with the thoughts that are developing, you have to find a way to be temperate in how you're gathering, storing, and using information. So I say to myself, how do I do this? And I do this in a very simple way that says, you write only 2 hours a day. And since you have to go to work, take 2 hours out of the time you spend watching television. And that would be your writing time. And whether or not the work is coming in that 2 hours, stay with it. That's your writing time. It's like a child putting time out to stand against the wall. You sit at that chair around the computer and you're waiting for something to come to put on the page. And you have 2 hours to do it. And sometimes nothing is coming. They call that writer's block, but I'm not so sure about that term, because it's not blocked. It's just that you need to get back into the groove of where you left before. And one of the ways I do that is to read the last chapter in order to move into the new. And by the end of 2 hours, you can rest assured I got something. And sometimes it may go over a little bit if I have the time, but I give myself only 2 hours per day. And that's how I accomplish writing a book in 6 to 18 months and do it very well. So, make it a habit to check your growth and to evaluate yourself, maybe by listening to someone's opinion about what you're doing and to see if someone else may be able to add a comment, a correction, or some kind of direction to help you bolster everything that you set out to accomplish within the time you set to accomplish it. So what is your answer to the question, why am I here? The answer is simply, you're here to live, and you're here to grow, and to make your growth the best accomplishment under the Creator's directions in the divine sufficiency and the free dominion to advance your incredible potential. And so I end here. If you enjoy this clip, I would ask you please to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, blessings always.